Okay, so the movie that I want to review today is called What's Love Got to Do with It? I first heard about this film at the Toronto International Film Festival. Um, I wanted to watch it there, but I couldn't. But the reason I was drawn to this film it is because it had characters of a South Asian descent in a central role. So I was curious about how they would portray this, and it was also directed by Shekhar Kapoor, whose work I've admired in the past. I really liked his films, Mr. India and Masoom. Um, and I thought he'd have an interesting take on this subject. So the film is about Zoe and Kaz. They grow up as neighbors in London, and they develop this fond friendship with each other. Eventually, Zoe is a documentary filmmaker, and Kaz is a surgeon or a doctor. Zoe is white, Kaz is brown. So they have different family values. But Kaz decides that he wants to get married, and goes. He decides to take up the option of getting into like an arranged marriage. Zoe is quite surprised by this decision, so she decides to take up this film project where she wants to document Kaz in his search for his bride. So she decides, with his permission, to make a film on Kaz's journey to find a bride. Um, and Kaz goes to like a marriage counselor, and the marriage counselor basically asks him questions about his background and tells him that because he's a doctor, he's on top of the food chain with regards to marriage. Um, and he asks him his preferences, and his parents say that they want someone that's religious but not too religious. So it was just interesting to see how you create a profile of what you want and try finding a match when you are looking for someone you want to settle down with, especially in the arranged marriage process. So um, I was, I don't know, I didn't enjoy the film as much as I thought I would, um, because I felt like the way the story was written was dealt with in the past in a similar way, and I think this conversation has moved ahead. Like this idea of an immigrant falling in love with someone that grew up in another culture, but also looking down on their own culture and the values in their own culture. So I don't know, like my first thoughts about it was that I think I liked how that relationship evolved between Zoe and Kaz. Like sometimes proximity can build affection, because they were neighbors. They grew up seeing each other change, and I think that developed some sort of connection between them. But I didn't enjoy how Kaz's extended family, and especially when they decide to go to Lahore to meet his bride, how they were sort of looking at it from like a very Western lens, and comparing it to Western values when there may be some significance in that cultural context. So, yeah, um, I think it's a one time watch, and if you do enjoy films, um, if you're looking for like a romantic comedy about characters from different racial and ethnic backgrounds, I think it's definitely worth a watch. Yeah, thanks for listening to this review.